When you hear the word retirement, what's the first image that comes to mind? A rocking chair on a porch? Endless days of leisure? Perhaps golf, gardening, or afternoon naps? For decades, that's exactly how retirement was portrayed, a reward for a lifetime of hard work. And for some, that version of retirement is perfect. But for many others, that quiet chapter feels incomplete. Not because rest isn't valuable, but because meaning doesn't retire. What if retirement wasn't an ending at all, but an opening? That's the question more and more adults are asking as they reach their 60s and beyond. In fact, we're witnessing a quiet revolution. People over 65 stepping back into the world. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Not to repeat old careers, but to start new ones. Welcome to the age of the Encore career. Let's pause here. This idea that retirement could be a springboard rather than a slowdown challenges everything we've been taught. From an early age, we're conditioned to see life in linear stages: school, career, retirement. We're taught to hang up our boots at 65 and retreat from the world. But what if we're hanging them up just when they're finally broken in? The truth is, we're living longer, healthier lives than any generation before us. A 65-year-old today is not the same as a 65-year-old 50 years ago. Many people entering their retirement years are still energetic, curious, and full of potential. What they lack is not ability, but a roadmap for what's next. That's where the Encore career comes in. The term Encore career was coined to describe a second or even third professional act, pursued later in life, not just for income, but for impact and fulfillment. These aren't just jobs. They're missions, purposed with passion. They range from teaching and mentoring to nonprofits, small businesses, the arts, caregiving, and even entrepreneurship. And the numbers back it up. According to a recent survey by AARP, nearly 1 in 4 Americans over 65 is still working, not out of financial necessity, but for personal satisfaction, intellectual stimulation, and the joy of contribution. Even more are actively exploring new career paths, often in completely different fields than they started in. Why? Because we are wired to grow, to contribute, to matter. For many, retirement brings a surprising void, not of activity, but of identity. Without the structure of a workday or the affirmation of a job well done, some begin to feel invisible. Not because they're weak, but because they're unused. Their wisdom, their life experience, their humor and heart, it's all still there, waiting to be shared. One woman described it like this: "When I retired, everyone said, 'Enjoy doing nothing.' But nothing got old fast. I didn't want to stop being useful. I just wanted to stop being exhausted." And that's the heart of it. Encore careers aren't about proving yourself. They're about expressing yourself, about doing something that lights you up inside, something you might have always wanted to try, but never had the time or freedom to pursue. Think of the 68-year-old former accountant who now teaches art classes at a community center, or the 72-year-old who started a nonprofit that mentors young entrepreneurs, or the retired nurse who now works part-time as a grief coach for people navigating loss. These are not second-best paths. They are chosen paths. Let's not pretend this shift is always easy. After all, we've internalized decades of messaging that older adults are past their prime, that learning new skills is a young person's game, that the job market has no room for gray hair. But here's the secret. Those beliefs are outdated. In fact, industries are waking up to the value of seasoned talent. Employers are realizing that older workers bring not just experience, but emotional intelligence, loyalty, work ethic, and mentoring capacity. In an era of high turnover and digital overwhelm, these qualities are gold. And beyond the marketplace, society itself is beginning to recognize that longevity without purpose is not enough. What's the point of living to 90 if the last 30 years feel like a waiting room? Instead, what if those years were rich with exploration, expression, and contribution? Encore careers aren't always about big moves or bold risks. Sometimes they start small, volunteering at a school, taking a class, consulting part-time, joining a community project. But even small steps can spark massive internal shifts. They can rekindle confidence. They can rebuild routine. They can remind you that you're still someone worth knowing, learning from, and celebrating. It's also important to note that continuing to engage in meaningful work has powerful health benefits. Studies have shown that older adults who maintain a sense of purpose through work or volunteerism have lower rates of depression and cognitive decline, better sleep and energy levels, stronger immune response, longer life expectancy. That's not coincidence, it's biology. The brain loves challenge. The spirit thrives on connection. When we contribute, we feel alive. So if you're standing at the edge of retirement, or already there, and feeling unsure about what's next, you're not alone. And you're not lost. You're simply between chapters. And the beauty of this next chapter, you get to write it. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It can be quiet or bold, paid or unpaid, local or global. What matters is that it reflects you, what you care about, what excites you, what you'd regret not trying. Because the truth is, there's no expiration date on passion, no age limit on making a difference, and no rule that says your best work is behind you. You may have spent decades climbing ladders, raising families, paying bills, and doing what needed to be done. Now you get to ask, what do I want to do, just because I can? So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and stay with me until the end. You might just find a spark you thought you lost, a story you didn't know you were still allowed to write, a career you didn't know was still waiting for you. Because in the next part, we'll meet real people who've done exactly that. They've left behind expectations, stepped into something new, and discovered that purpose doesn't retire. It evolves. Sometimes, the best way to believe in possibility is to see it lived. So let's meet a few remarkable individuals, ordinary people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who made bold, beautiful choices to begin again. They didn't start over because they had to. They did it because something inside them whispered, "You're not done yet." Let's begin with Gloria, a 67-year-old grandmother from Denver. Gloria spent most of her life working in human resources. She loved mentoring younger employees, guiding them through conflict, and helping them grow. But when she retired, something didn't feel right. She missed the conversations, the sense of making a difference. Then one day, a friend invited her to a local nonprofit that helped formerly incarcerated women reintegrate into society. Gloria started volunteering once a week, simply listening and offering encouragement. That turned into a part-time role as a mentor coordinator. Today, she runs empowerment workshops, combining her HR experience with a newfound passion for restorative justice. Her Encore career didn't just give her a schedule, it gave her a mission. Then there's Bill, a former auto mechanic from Ohio. At 70, Bill wasn't looking for a job. He just missed working with his hands. One day, He saw a flyer for a program that trained retirees to teach basic car maintenance to young adults aging out of foster care. Bill thought, why not? What started as a weekly class became a lifeline, not just for the students, but for Bill. They needed someone to believe in them, he said, and I needed someone to believe in me. Today, his students call him Coach B, and he says the joy of watching them succeed is better than any paycheck he's ever earned. Or take Ruth, a 72-year-old former nurse from Arizona. After decades of bedside care, she retired with plans to rest and travel. But the travel never really excited her. What did? Writing. So she enrolled in a community college creative writing class just to see what would happen. That class led to a writing group. That group led to a blog. That blog led to a book deal. Today, Ruth writes essays about aging, vulnerability, and love after loss. Her first book was published at 75. I never thought I'd be a writer, she says, but maybe I was always meant to be. These stories aren't just heartwarming, they're instructive. They show us that second acts don't require perfect health, perfect timing, or perfect conditions. They require curiosity. They require courage, and they require the willingness to trade "what if I fail, see?" for "what if I fly?" Let's look a little deeper into what drives these encore journeys. For many, the motivation is purpose. After a lifetime of working to survive, there's a deep hunger to work in a way that serves, to give back, to mentor, to create meaning. Others are driven by curiosity, a desire to learn something new, to explore a skill or passion that was long put on hold while raising kids or building a career. And some are simply fueled by the need to feel alive, to wake up with a reason, to matter. Encore careers don't always start with grand visions. They often begin with tiny sparks. An invitation to volunteer, a class taken out of boredom, a neighbor's suggestion. What matters is what comes next, the decision to lean in. Take Jorge, for example. A retired firefighter, Jorge thought his service days were behind him. But when a friend invited him to speak at a high school about fire safety, he found himself unexpectedly energized. The students asked questions, they listened, they laughed. Now, Jorge runs a youth leadership program that uses firefighter principles, courage, teamwork, discipline, to mentor teens in tough neighborhoods. I thought I was done leading, he says. Turns out, I was just getting started. These stories reveal another powerful truth. Starting over doesn't mean starting from scratch. Every person mentioned brought with them decades of experience, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. They didn't erase their past, they built upon it. Their encore careers didn't require them to become someone new. They allowed them to become more fully themselves. That's an important mindset shift, because often, what holds people back from reinventing themselves after 65 isn't lack of ability, it's fear. Fear of technology, fear of being too old, fear of not being taken seriously. But the truth is, every generation has had to learn something new. And older adults are often the most agile learners, not because they're the fastest, but because they're the most patient, the most resourceful, and the most motivated by meaning. Let's also talk about the practical lessons these encore pioneers have learned. Start small. You don't need a 5-year plan. You need one brave yes. Try a class, join a group, volunteer once. Follow your energy. If something lights you up, even if it scares you, that's your clue. Pay attention. Ask for help. Many communities have encore career resources, tech classes, or career transition workshops for older adults. You don't have to do this alone. Own your story. Your age is not a liability. It's an asset. You bring stability, insight, and depth that younger professionals may not yet have. Don't wait for confidence. Most people don't feel ready when they begin. Confidence comes after action, not before. And perhaps most importantly, redefine success. Maybe success isn't status or salary. Maybe it's waking up with excitement, making someone's day better, feeling proud of how you spent your time. One woman in her late 60s said it best. When I stopped asking, "What will they think?" and started asking, "What do I want?" everything shifted. Let's be honest, starting again can feel vulnerable, especially in a world that often overlooks people past a certain age. But every person you've heard about today felt that same vulnerability and walked through it anyway. And what they found on the other side wasn't just work. It was community. It was joy. It was freedom. Now, maybe you're thinking, that's great for them, but I've never been that brave. I don't have a special talent. But here's the secret. Neither did they. They didn't start with certainty. They started with curiosity. And so can you. Because the next point, what comes next, might be the most freeing truth of all. You don't have to know exactly where you're going to begin. You just have to begin. In the next part, we'll explore how to navigate this new landscape practically, how to find training, how to leverage your experience, and where to get support so that your Encore career isn't just a dream, but a plan. Let's keep going. What comes next might surprise you. So, you've decided you're not done yet. You want to keep going, not out of obligation, but out of excitement. You have heard the stories, felt the spark, and something inside you is whispering, maybe this next chapter is mine to write. But then the questions begin. Where do I start? What do I need to learn? Am I too far behind to catch up? Let's take a deep breath. Because no matter your background, skills, or how long it's been since your last job, there is a place for you in the modern world of work. And the tools to get started? They are more accessible than you might think. Let's begin with the first big shift: skills and training. The job market today isn't the same as it was 30 or even 10 years ago. Technology, communication styles, and even work environments have evolved rapidly. That might sound intimidating, but it's also empowering. Because it means there are new paths open to you, ones that didn't exist when you were younger. And guess what? Older adults are learning these skills and thriving. Take basic digital literacy. Knowing how to use email, navigate a video call, create documents, or manage a calendar app can open the door to dozens of flexible jobs, from tutoring online to remote customer service to consulting. Don't know where to learn? You're not alone, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars. Here are a few trusted, beginner-friendly platforms designed specifically with older adults in mind. Senior Planet by AARP offers free tech classes online and in person across the U.S. Get Set Up, a peer-to-peer learning platform for older adults, covering tech, wellness, and career skills. Coursera and EDX, free courses from universities around the world, on topics ranging from marketing to computer science to personal development. LinkedIn Learning, great for brushing up on business tools, communication, and leadership. All in short, manageable lessons. Many libraries, community colleges, and local nonprofits also offer tech training or job readiness programs tailored for older adults. You are not expected to be an expert. You just need to be open to learning. Which brings us to the second essential piece: your experience. Sometimes, in the rush to retrain, older adults forget their greatest asset, what they already know. You've lived through transitions, managed people, resolved conflict, stayed calm under pressure, made tough decisions, and developed patience, empathy, and resilience. These soft skills are in high demand, especially in industries that value maturity, perspective, and leadership. So instead of thinking, I'm outdated, try asking, who needs the wisdom I've gained? What did I love most about my previous work or life experiences? How can I translate those strengths into a new role? For example, a retired teacher might become a tutor, curriculum designer, or education coach. A former nurse might become a wellness advisor, home care consultant, or medical writer. A stay-at-home parent might become a caregiver coordinator, community organizer, or mentor. If you're unsure how to describe your skills in today's language, consider reaching out to job coaches who specialize in midlife transitions. Many communities have Encore career advisors, or you can explore virtual networks like Encore.org, focused on helping people find purpose-driven work in later life. Reserve places retired professionals in part-time roles with nonprofits and public institutions. Path Forward helps people re-enter the workforce after career breaks, including retirement. These organizations can help you refresh your resume using modern formats, practice interviews, including virtual ones, connect with purpose-driven employers who value your background. And here's something important to remember. You don't have to go full-time. Many Encore careers begin with part-time roles, short-term contracts, or even volunteer work that leads to paid positions. Flexibility is not only allowed, it's encouraged. In fact, employers increasingly recognize the value of offering flexible schedules, remote options, and task-based roles that cater perfectly to experienced, mature workers who may not want or need 40 hours a week. Let's take a moment here. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. The pace of change can be dizzying, but you don't have to master everything at once. You just need to take one step, one class, one conversation. You might be surprised at how quickly your confidence comes back. Let's talk about confidence. For many older adults, the biggest barrier isn't skill, it's self-belief. After years out of the workforce, or after decades in the same job, trying something new can feel like stepping into foreign territory. But think of it this way. You've adapted your whole life. You adapted to raising children, to technology, to changing relationships, to loss, to healing. Reinvention isn't new to you. It's who you are. One woman who re-entered the workforce at 69 said, I wasn't sure if I'd be fast enough, sharp enough, relevant enough, but the first time someone thanked me for my insight, I realized I bring something no training course can teach. That insight, that ability to listen deeply, problem solve calmly, lead gently, and show up consistently, is often what employers value most. And it's not just employers. The world is shifting. Today, multi-generational teams are on the rise. Companies and communities are starting to understand the power of combining fresh ideas with lived experience. Older workers are being recognized not just for what they know, but for how they show up, with care, steadiness, and heart. There's one more thing to know. You don't have to do this alone. Building a new chapter, whether it's paid work, volunteering, starting a business, or joining a creative project, is always easier with support. Find others walking the same path. Join an Encore community online or in person. Talk to friends. Start a book club focused on reinvention. Sign up for a class just to meet others like you. Isolation is the enemy of possibility. But community? That's where courage grows. So if you're feeling the call to begin again, but unsure how, remember this. There are tools to help you learn. There are people who want to help you grow. There are opportunities waiting for the wisdom only you can offer. In the final part of our journey, we'll look beyond your story and into the bigger picture. How the world is changing to welcome older workers, why age no longer has to be a barrier, and how you can step into the future with confidence, purpose, and pride. Let's finish strong. Your Encore is just getting started. There's something powerful happening around us, even if it's not always visible on the evening news or in flashy headlines. Quietly, steadily, the world is beginning to rethink what it means to grow older. For so long, turning 65 was seen as a finish line, a gentle bow out, a signal that your time of contribution had passed. But now, that narrative is changing, and you are living proof of the new story being written. Retirement used to mean stepping aside. Now, more than ever, it can mean stepping forward. In communities across the country and around the world, older adults are not just continuing to work. They're reshaping what work looks like. They're consulting, mentoring, founding nonprofits, starting businesses, teaching skills, and building bridges between generations. They are not asking for permission. They are offering perspective. And the world is finally beginning to see that age does not diminish value. It adds dimension. Walk into many modern workplaces today, and you'll see something that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. You'll find 27-year-olds and 72-year-olds collaborating on projects, exchanging ideas, learning from each other, not in theory, but in practice. Not as a special feature, but as a new normal. Age diversity is becoming one of the most important conversations in organizational life, not just because it's fair, but because it's smart. Employers are realizing what you've known all along. That experience matters. That maturity brings stability. That someone who's seen change doesn't fear it. They navigate it with wisdom. And in a world that's changing faster than ever, that kind of grounded presence is a rare and treasured gift. But the most exciting part? It's not just about companies or institutions shifting their mindsets. It's about individuals, people just like you, choosing to raise their hands and say, "I'm not done." People who once thought their contributions were behind them, discovering that their most meaningful work might still be ahead. Think of the grandmother who started a local tutoring service at age 70 because she saw kids struggling with reading and realized she had time, love, and skills to give. Or the retired engineer who now helps nonprofits improve their infrastructure. Or the man who returned to school in his late 60s, not because he had to, but because he'd always wanted to learn about history. And now, he's teaching others what he's discovered. These aren't just feel-good stories. They're a reflection of a broader truth. Purpose doesn't age. In fact, for many people, it sharpens with time. And society is catching up. Job boards now have filters specifically designed for Encore careers and age-inclusive opportunities. Cities are building age-friendly initiatives that prioritize work, health, and social participation for older adults. Universities are opening continuing education programs where older learners are no longer the exception, but part of a vibrant, intergenerational classroom. Even in popular culture, the perception of aging is shifting. We're seeing more media that portrays older characters not as background figures, but as leaders, dreamers, explorers, lovers of life. This matters because the images we see shape the beliefs we carry. And slowly, beautifully, those beliefs are changing. Still, you might be wondering, do I really belong in this future? The answer is yes. Yes, if you still have questions you're curious about. Yes, if there's something you've always wanted to try. Yes, if you've ever felt a flicker of passion you never got to follow. Yes, if you want to feel useful again. Yes, if you want to give back. Yes, if you just want to connect with others in a meaningful way. Because the future of work isn't just about income. It's about identity. It's about being part of something, using your gifts, and waking up knowing that your presence still makes a difference. And the beauty of it is, there are no longer fixed rules. Your new career doesn't have to be full-time or traditional or linear. It can be project-based, creative, community-driven, virtual. It can be seasonal. It can even be unpaid if it feeds your soul. The point is not the format. The point is the fulfillment. It's okay if the world you once knew feels unfamiliar now. It's okay if the idea of stepping into something new feels scary. That's normal. Every generation before us has had to adapt. But the difference is, your generation is doing it with a lifetime of perspective in your pocket. You've survived change. You've grown through hardship. You've adapted to technologies, systems, and social shifts that your younger self couldn't have imagined. Reinvention isn't new to you. It's your strength. So now, you have a choice. You can let the old story of retirement define you, or you can write your own. You can settle into the quiet, or you can embrace the noise of learning, leading, and living on purpose. You can shrink yourself to match what the world used to expect, or you can expand to meet what the world now desperately needs. Because, make no mistake, the world needs you. It needs your steadiness, your humor, your resilience, your compassion, your ability to mentor without judgment and show up without ego. It needs your stories, your scars, and your solutions. You are not a burden. You are a resource. You are not past your prime. You are primed by your past. This is not a time to fade. This is a time to shine. And if no one has told you this lately, let me be the one to say it. You still have so much to offer. And the world is better when you do. So take the leap. Not because you're proving anything, but because you're answering something. That voice inside that says, maybe there's more. That whisper that keeps returning, even on quiet days, reminding you that purpose has no expiration date. Say yes to that. Say yes to becoming a beginner again. Say yes to the awkwardness, the learning curve, the uncertainty. Say yes to connection, to collaboration, to courage. Say yes to possibility. Because this isn't the end of the road. It's a roundabout, and you get to choose which direction to take next. The future of work is inclusive, and your name is already on the list. Bye and see you next time.